There's a sorrow in the wind blowing down the road I've been. I can hear it cry while shadows steal the sun. But I cannot look back now. I've come too far to turn around, 'cause there's still a race ahead that I must run. I'm only halfway home. I've got to journey on till I find the things that I have lost. I've come a long, long road. Still got some miles to go. I've got a wide river to cross. I have stumbled, I have strayed. You can trace the tracks I've made all across the memories that my heart recalls. But I'm still a refugee. Won't you say a prayer for me? 'Cause sometimes even the strongest soldier falls. I'm only halfway home. I've got to journey on till I find the things that I have lost. I've come a long, long road. Still got some miles to go. I've got a wide river to cross. I've got a wide river to cross. I'm only halfway home. I've got to journey on till I find the things that I have lost. I've come a long, long road. Still got some miles to go. I've got a wide river to cross. I've got a wide river to cross. I've got a wide river to cross.
Thank you. Thank you, HR.com, and all the wonderful people here who are making this possible. So my name is Arthur Bloom. I am the founder of MusiCore. I founded it some 8 years ago. And it really has become what I do. MusiCore is a conservatory-level music program that helps some of the most severely wounded troops at Walter Reed play music as a core part of the rehabilitation. And in many ways, recover their lives. It's adaptive music when it needs to be. We design custom prosthetics when we need to. We overcome any obstacle to help the injured play music, to learn or relearn an instrument, to write and to perform. In short, MusiCore helps wounded warriors play music and recover their lives. And from what I've found in this work, is that whatever impact I can have as a musician is multiplied 100 times by what I see with these veterans every day. Let me give you an example. I got into this, I was initially invited to Walter Reed to meet an injured soldier who used to play the drums. He had gotten blown up in Iraq, he lost his leg. A week after the birth of his daughter, he wound up at Walter Reed and he was concerned, how am I going to play the drums again without my leg, among other very serious concerns. So someone thought, hey, I know this musician guy, you should meet him. That was me. So I went to Walter Reed, I met him, and of course, you know, how may I help you? I was determined to help him play drums again, and we were able to do that. But from what I learned about Walter Reed, just being there and talking to this guy and talking to other guys, what was happening was, if you remember, this is, you know, the combat veterans returning from Iraq in large numbers, the battlefield medicine kept getting better and better and was miraculous. But that also meant that increasingly severely injured soldiers were returning from the battlefield only to come to Walter Reed, a system that hadn't really caught up to the advancements in battlefield medicine. So suddenly you have this growing huge population of, you know, young veterans at Walter Reed for what could be years with very little to do outside of medical appointments. So I thought, what if we could start a music program for any one of these, and I want to say guys, meaning men and women, just because it's what you say at Walter Reed, for any one of these guys, regardless of whether they played music before, whether they didn't, regardless of their injury, what was the very best music program that we could put together for this population? So we set this thing in motion as a kind of experiment in a Fisher House. We would get expert mentors, needed equipment, individualized projects, and we started. And really, much to our surprise, one after the next, every single person in that Fisher House wanted to be part of this. They wanted to do it, except one. There was one young soldier who actually joined the Army when he was 17. He was blown up shortly after he turned 18, and he was gone. He wasn't talking. He had lost one leg. The other leg was dangling by a thread. He was just slumped over in his wheelchair. There was a Fisher House volunteer at the time who would come, and she told me that he was the one that she prayed for. So she would come and just pray for him. So he was a mess. And then one day, there was a barbecue, and instead of going to the barbecue, he'd seen us, obviously, in the house quite a bit. He picked up the guitar and literally never put it down. He started playing the guitar 5, 10, 15 hours a day, and that's not an exaggeration, because I know the guy that lived next to him. Said, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, it's 15 hours a day. He started watching Beethoven sonata videos on YouTube at night. Essentially, this kid from the Midwest decides that he likes non-showy Beethoven, Wilhelm Kempff, and starts playing the keyboard and piano. And this becomes the core thing that he's doing at Walter Reed. He's playing music all day. Just an anecdote I remember to give a sense of just how much this had become the center of his universe at Walter Reed at that time. There was talk of amputating his other leg, and I remember his response was a group of people, well, then how am I going to push the pedal of the piano? And everybody sort of looked at each other like, what are you, nuts? That's what you're worried about? But in any case, he was doing music all day, and he woke up. He started talking to different people and socializing and joking and reading and all those things. Through this work, he reconnected with himself and the world around him, because conservatory level music, not kumbaya, but conservatory level music gives these young veterans who hunger for purpose again, purpose and community and joy and hope. And here's the key. It's that this musical accomplishment starts to blossom out to every other aspect of their life. I've lost track of the number of wives who've told me over the years, this is what gave me my husband back. But beyond that, they get really, really good. And that's something we didn't really, who would have thought? I mean, we weren't thinking of it. We should have, makes sense, but they get really, really good. So, I mean, if you can wrap your heads around this, you have some of the most injured people in the history of the world rehearsing between surgeries, practicing through the pain, and this band that we formed. And the band is the performance component of the program. The band is so good that it's performed down the road at the Grand Ole Opry a couple times and crushed it, at the Kennedy Center with Yo-Yo Ma, at Madison Square Garden with Roger Waters, on the Colbert Report with the Kansas City Symphony in front of 50,000 people, and a couple more million thrown in on live TV. The band is amazing. And actually, a few of them are here today, so let me introduce you to them. I'm honored to introduce you to them right now. So we have Jonathan Mullen on percussion, Nathan Kalwicki on guitar, and Tim Donnelly on vocals. Excuse me. They are amazing. And it's interesting, you know, working with hundreds of, when I say soldiers, that's a small s. That's all branches, soldiers, Marines, airmen, sailors. Working with these soldiers over the years, so many of them get so good. The musicians who visit and work with them all say the same thing. They all say, you know, these are super students. Which is, you know, if you step back, you have to wonder, why are they all so good? I mean, you know, who are they? This is the military. So, you know, who is the military? They're brave, patriotic for sure. Perhaps their senses of humor are a little bit better than the general population overall, but they're a cross-section of our society. They're a cross-section of America. They're your friends from high school, they're your friends from college, they're your parents, your children, your neighbors. They're just a cross-section of America. So, you know, we know that the military doesn't recruit soldiers on the basis of musical talent. So why are they so damn good? And I was thinking about that, and I don't know if any of you saw this past year, there was a documentary called The Wolf Pack, sort of an odd documentary about a family on the Lower East Side of New York, and there's about, I don't know, 6 or 7 kids, and it's a documentary. The father doesn't let them leave the apartment. So years go by, and these kids just stay in the apartment all the time, and it's, you know, horrible. But to escape or to make it livable for themselves, they all get into movies, and they watch movies. That's what they do. But they don't just watch them. They start writing down all the words in the movies, and then they start recreating them. So they make their own movies in this apartment. You know, they make Reservoir Dogs and Batman, and they capture the nuances of the characters of John Travolta and Samuel Jackson. And they're amazing. I mean, these kids' movies are unbelievably good. So the kids make movies to transcend the prison of their apartment. And the movies are amazing. And the soldiers play music to transcend the isolation of Walter Reed, and their music is amazing. So is there a link? I thought to myself. Lots of differences for sure, clearly, but there seems to be a fundamental algebra of trauma plus time. You have these kids, and the soldiers are at Walter Reed because they're traumatized. They're shot, they're blown up, they're physically, emotionally traumatized, and the kids are traumatized, and they have all the time in the world. The movie starts with the kids saying, you know, you can't imagine how bored I am. You know, and then the soldiers of Walter Reed, if you've ever been in the hospital for 2 or 3 days, you know that, you know, you go out of your mind with boredom. Imagine being in the hospital for 2 or 3 years. Trauma plus time provides the fertile ground for creative achievement, and in turn, creative achievement helps alleviate trauma plus time. So there's a larger perspective. And thinking about it, obviously, all of us have been traumatized. Not like them, but it's true. And all of us have time. All of us have been bored. All of us are bored from now and then. Maybe not like them, but it's true. So what does that tell us? What is this experiment in inserting a music conservatory into a military hospital that generates explosive creative growth among the soldiers tell us? I think it tells us that we all have the same seed for explosive creative growth that they do. Music Corps works because it recognizes that the seed for creative achievement is in everybody. It's in the musician who went to Juilliard in the 8th grade. It's in the soldier, the combat veteran who went to war when he turned 17. It's in all of us. It's in all of them. And I think, because today is a day of motivational speeches, please know that it's in all of you too. And with that, I'd like to actually bring Tim Donnelly up a bit to talk to him about it. Tim, how does an infantry Marine, go from Afghanistan to the Country Music Hall of Fame? How did that happen? How did you start singing?
Well, it started with a beer. No, I'm just kidding. So, really, you can't imagine the kind of time and the kind of just absolute mind-boggling boredom you go through, and you're just sitting staring at the wall, and you've watched hundreds and hundreds of hours of TV and movies and all kinds of stuff, and so for me, I was at the gym for the injured guys at the hospital, and at that point, I was in pretty rough shape, and my arm had this big metal cage around it that was holding it together, and they were trying to kind of piece it back together and trying to get it to work, and Arthur approached me with one of the other musicians from Music Corps, and they approached me and they talked to me, and I didn't quite. At first, I kind of blew him off because I was like, what am I supposed to do? I'm not gonna be able to play the guitar like I want to. So, what am I supposed to do with myself? And so a few days later, though, it kind of just stuck in my head. And a few days later, I went by to see him, and it was just so funny because he was sitting there playing the piano when I came into the room, and he just kept kind of playing, and I recognized the tune, and then we started talking, and next thing you know, somehow we're being asked to perform on stage with Roger Waters, a little while later, and I have no idea how that happened, but then, we got asked to perform somewhere else, and what
was the moment where you knew that you could do this?
When I went to see Arthur, and when we were sitting there talking, and we started getting together a little more often after that, and we kind of just clicked, and we started rehearsing together, and we heard about this thing with Roger, and we were rehearsing and working on it, and I was just supposed to be, kind of a smaller part of the show, and then at the show I ended up singing a lead for one song, and it went well. And
It went better than well.
I was surprised. And but really that was where it was just all of the hours we had put into it, all the time, all of the work. I realized I could do it. It worked. It was easy. It wasn't, and it provides this kind of shelter for these guys to hide away from kind of everything else that's going on at the hospital. And so it's this going to practice and going to work on the music with these guys and with Arthur. It ends up being this time of just a little bit of light in your life when you're kind of feel like you're stuck in the dark.
Let me ask you, how has music helped you? How would you say that?
Well, when it comes down to it, for us, I mean, we have good days and bad days, like everybody else. It just swings a little further. It's a little more extreme, and there are days where it's tough, and whether you're waking up in the middle of the night from bad dreams or just the pain and the frustration and so when you have the band, when you have the music, when you wake up at 2:00 in the morning and you know you're not going to be able to go back to sleep, and you know you're just going to be staring at the ceiling, and you can just roll over and pick up your guitar, or it makes a big difference. And it makes a big difference to have these guys, because you'll see so many guys at the hospital who are so isolated and so alone, and then suddenly they have a group, and they have people that they hang out with all the time, and that turns into more, and it just does so much in so many different ways.
Well, we have another song which I think expresses some of those sentiments that we'd like to play for you. So, a song by the Wood Brothers called "Sing About It."
If you get too worried, what you ought to do is sing. If you get worried, what you ought to do is sing. If you get worried, what you ought to do is sing. Sing about your trouble, it just might pass. If you get lost, what you ought to do is sing. If you get lost, what you ought to do is sing. If you get lost, what you ought to do is sing. Sing about your trouble, it just might pass. Sing about your trouble, it just might pass. Sing about joy, sing about love and hope and laugh. Sing about your trouble, just might pass, just might pass. Oh, if you get broken, what you ought to do is sing. If you get broken, what you ought to do is sing. If you get broken, what you ought to do is sing. Sing about your trouble, it just might pass. Sing about your trouble, it just might pass. pass. Just might 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 pass.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Yes, please.